into this. So leading school improvement, right? There's so much around that term. In the States, it is generally associated with turnaround schools, schools that are low performing, schools that have various challenges that they're experiencing, usually low performing in an academic sense. I want to broaden it to improvement. Everybody here, no matter whether your school is public, private, international, American, British, French, military, whatever that might be of another country, whatever that might be, everybody wants to get better. And this is about what is the framework that it's going to take to really get better. So what is school improvement? Teachers, staff, administration, students, parents, caregivers, board of trustees or board members, however you define them, and community members figuring out what to do to better serve all students. It's a community-based approach here, and it does not leave anybody out. So equity-centered school improvement is really about adults learning about themselves and about each other in the process, all right? So how do we do that? Right? So this process is really 3 steps. Simply understand, embrace, embody. Understand, embrace, embody. When we work on equity-centered school improvement, we're looking to understand our school environment and our leadership and the work that we're doing. What do you want to stand up for? It's important that you understand that and articulate that. Some might say is, what is your vision for the community in which you lead? If you are an organizational leader, an executive director, or a president, what do you want to stand up for? Second, what do you value and want to practice? And then the third thing in understanding that's important here when we're thinking about school improvement is we have to know what the current state is. So what is current state? So if I'm in a school environment or a classroom environment, it is important that I do assessment to figure out, okay, I've defined what I want to stand up for. I've come up with values. I've come up with practices that I want to see. Now it's important for me to go and get a snapshot of what currently exists and then align that or compare that to what I want to stand up for and what values and practices that I have. More specifically, understand, it is key that when we figure out in community what we want to stand up for, what we work on is brave space building. Well, for us to really be able to effectively engage equity-centered school improvement, we have to begin to create these brave spaces where we can unmask, right? Where we can be human, where we can show up with all of our stuff. And the brave space process is really a 6-step process that we use, and I'll tell you 3 of them. First, we express a moment of gratitude. Second, we express how we're feeling. And third, we identify some intentions for our meeting. It is amazing how just doing those three things, gratitude, how are you feeling, and what are your intentions for this meeting, how it really helps to unmask the process and we can see each other better. And you can be seen better when you're able to share. That is key when we engage in these conversations around what do we want to stand up for? What are our values, our practices? How are we defining various terms? And then what is our current state when we're investigating those spaces? Because when we go to look for how well we're standing up for a particular thing, maybe it's anti-racism, maybe it's for diversity, however you might define it, we know that it kind of gets uncomfortable, so we need these spaces. Also, many folks talk about data and information. It is important in the understanding phase that we take assessment. In this current state, what is currently there? And what we find, and I'm going to talk about this on a school level, not on necessarily a classroom level, but you might be able to see it on a classroom level, is this idea that we have to, oftentimes we look at the school environment, kids, parents, mostly teachers, students, parents, right? And school leadership. We need to look at the school learning environment and do an assessment around that. And that assessment is more than just a perception survey. There are a number of different ways that we can assess the school learning environment that extend beyond a survey. The other component of assessment is we got to look at the organizational and culture of the actual school. So what this means is looking at the board of trustees, the leadership, the diversity, equity and inclusion and justice teams. All of those, how do they operate? How are decisions made in those particular spaces, right? Those assessments are really, really important for us to understand, because we cannot only look at the school learning environment and say, how do we change that? How do we change this curriculum? How do we improve this curriculum? How do we enhance the way we deliver this, if we're not also looking at what's the current state of relationships between the board and school leadership, board and parents, board, those types of things. So we got to look at how the organization runs, hiring practices, policies, how are decisions made? How do people, a variety of different ways that we're able to look at the organizational culture. Those are key for our understanding. The next is we have to embrace. And this phase is once we've gone through this understanding, we have this assessment, we know the current state, we know where the goal, where we want to stand up for our values and practices, current state. Now it's saying, what are your goals, objectives, and strategic actions? So we can have a great statement of anti-racism, but what's our goal now? What's our objective? What are our strategic actions? And then most importantly, what is your implementation roadmap? So a statement is a great start, defining how, but we gotta know where we're going. And usually what that means is a timeline for action. Not everything can be done right away. Not everything should be done right away. But in community, right? In community, we're able to look at these goals and objectives and actions and decide what is our priority, what is our time frame, how are we going to move, and we have that plan. That is us actually embracing what we learned and understanding and beginning to move forward. The third and final thing that we look at in equity-centered school improvement is also embodiment, right? And we got to look at, well, now that we have this roadmap, right? We got our goals, got our objectives, got these actions, and we got the timeline we're going to do it. Well, who's going to lead it, right? Who's going to help us get to that place where we are walking in the values, where we are living out the practices, where we're standing up for what we want to stand up for? And then we got to say, how is implementation going? How's it going? That's that cyclical process that we then have with this. So it's understand, embrace, embody. Then we come back to our understanding again, and it is this cycle. So school improvement, sometimes also said as continuous improvement, is what we're about. We always want to seek to understand, move to a place where we embrace, we accept what's there, and we begin to move forward with it. Then we embody it. We put it into action. We are enacting our timeline, and then we're also seeing how well are we doing along that way. All right. Thank you all very much for your time, and I look forward to connecting with you in the very near future.